Like today, those storytellers were not thought of as just entertainers. They were teachers and historians. Having no written language, it was storytelling that preserved our legends, our history, and much of our culture. But storytelling was also used as a method of teaching the young ones, and sometimes reminding the not-so-young ones how to live in a good way.
Hi.
We're on Res Wi-Fi, man. So when we play that video, it takes a little bit. Anyway, you guys, welcome to day whatever. But we are continuing on our Indigenous storytelling, and everyone that's listening here from Clifford Watney School page, you guys just had my coworkers on, Rhonda Barber and Brenda Albert, and they will be doing their own podcast, the staff. Teachers and EAs, and where they'll be doing more Indigenous storytelling. So it's all going to be awesome. We're going to be bringing you guys a lot of content. Me and Nikki Olette here will be bringing you guests like this that are not from our area, such as Garett here and our previous guests, and we'll be continuing to do that. So you guys are going to be getting a lot of information, a lot of stories, and we're going to just hopefully continue on doing that. So I want to welcome Garett Strawberry. He's from Ojibwe, eh?
Ochis First Nation.
Ochis, and he is going to be talking about the flute and whatever other cool stories he has. So go ahead, Garett.
All right. Okay. Thank you for having me, inviting me to share, some of my knowledge, sharing some of my stories. But the only story that I'll be sharing today is the native flute. Right. So with the native flute, it doesn't originate from my region. I'm Ojibwe, Anishinaabe, but I also have a lot of family in my dad's side in Cree. So I'm quite familiar with, some of the language and some of the teaching behind that. But when it comes to the native flute, this originates from down south in the States, right? So some of the Apache, some of the Sioux, right? The Lakotas. So this is more of their belonging, right? But as you know, with how we share, our stories, we share medicines and stuff like that. This I feel is a great teacher for healing, right? Because I've relied on this instrument itself as a source of healing for me. With anybody else that has gone through major events in their life that maybe have caused trauma or just stress in general, sometimes could even cause a lot of issues with our day to day, right? To just try to maintain balance, right? So with this thing here, I picked it up. Oh geez, it must have been 9 years ago now. And at that time, I'm also a painter, right? I do a lot of art in that way, and I do art for a few reasons. One of it was the biggest thing was it was therapeutic. It was helping me to get out of whatever mind state I was at, to sort through some my emotions, and to sort through whatever it is my thoughts were going, right, to help bring me down and just kind of keep me level. But because I did a lot of traveling in my past employment, so I couldn't pick up my paints and my brushes and a big canvas and travel with them, especially if I was on a plane. So I needed to find another outlet. And then by chance, I just came across another flute player, and I asked some questions, and just really loved how amazing it sounded. and I went out and started seeking my own. And then I did. This isn't the first one, but when I went out and started seeking my flute, I came across it and started learning to play it. And it really, when I was just learning and as I started to master it, it really started to to take me where the same place and the same feelings as what it was when I was painting. So that self-therapeutic feeling, right? It was really great, especially when I started feeling overwhelmed with things and stress in day-to-day life, right? Uh, so it really did help me with my healing in that sense, and as well as maybe about 4 years ago now, I went through another life traumatic experience, and thankfully for things like this, and our spirituality to really keep me focused and keep me balanced. I was able to get through some really major things in my life that I was going through. Yeah. So, but a little bit more about the flute. So, like you said, this originates from the States. But when I started using this, I started learning a little bit more about it, and learning, where it originates from, learning a little bit of the stories, what it's meant for, and then I started fasting with these because I practice spirituality quite a bit, right? I fast every year, sometimes twice a year. So along the way, I've been able to share my stories, and then when I go out and share the story that I would be talking with you guys. I know I don't have a lot of time, but I'll try to keep a little bit of my story, a little bit of the shorter version, if you would.
You got 2 hours if you need it.
Yeah, I got 2 hours.
It's funny, it's funny. Everyone says like I only have half hour. Like we had a guest here the other day, and he said I only have half hour, and he ended up going for an hour and 45 minutes. So.
Well, that's the
Never
thing, right?
know.
I'll try to share as much as I could, but given that I still on the clock,
Okay.
for my work time, I would took off the lunch hour just to be here with you guys today.
Well, we appreciate it.
So and I won't rush through it. I mean, even if I do go past what time that I'm allotted for my lunch hour, I don't think will be a really big problem for me on my end. But I will be a little bit, conscious of the time, though, just for the sake of my work, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so a little more again back to the flute. So in the beginning, there was a lot of the instruments, or I guess you'd call them instruments that we used, or some of the original stuff were for the drums, right? So when the drum was given, there's a story behind that, the creation of that, and where we were gifted with that. And then the same thing with the rattle, right? Some people call it the gourd. So we there's a story behind that and how we were gifted with that and where that came from. And then as well as the flute, that's just as old as those two things that we were gifted with as I guess you could say Nihewan, right? Like as our indigenous people, people of the land here. So so this isn't just a new instrument. This has been around for a while. Like there's even some historians and archaeologists that had dug out some caves in Phoenix, Arizona that were dating well past I think maybe
1800.
yeah, well it's over 6,000 years ago, right? So just because of the age, right, over 6,000 years ago. So they're it was well preserved because it was buried into some sand, right? And it was preserved luckily from that, so they were able to estimate a rough timeline. So it's been quite old. But at that one, it was only I think four holes. This one has six holes on it. So this is a little bit more of a modern one now, with the 6 holes on it. And the way it's the way it's put together is it looks really fancy. It looks this one was machined, so that's why it looks really almost perfect, right? Um, Whereas some of the other hand carved ones, you know, may look a little bit different. They have some bends in them. They have sometimes some animals engraved or shaped right at the end of the flute. So, but I'll share a little bit of what this flute sounds like before I get into the
Yeah, that'd be good.
story, right? Just so I can get myself into the mood too, because
Mm.
I have to get myself into the mood before I feel really passionate about what I'm sharing, right? Get me in the right mindset, because this is what it does, right? Um, that's why I said
It's
it's
actually
really,
good to know that, you just saying that, to feel that vibe, I guess, to get your mind right, and you know what I mean. You want to focus solely on the flute because that's what you're here today to tell us about the flute, the origins. So that's good to
yeah.
hear that you got to play a song to get in that zone.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna just go with it right now. So I'm just gonna. That's what I usually like to do is when I'm doing these things, is just kind of go with it, not go with a rehearsed melody, right? Because then
Mm.
it becomes a little bit unauthentic, is how I feel, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
all right, here
Take
I'll
it
hope
away.
I hope you guys could hear it just fine when I start playing. Could you hear that just fine?
Yeah, we're good. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll keep going. All right.
That
So
was
here's
that was good, man. That makes you want to just yeah, man, that was good. You can feel that.
yeah, and yeah. So that's the thing I really enjoy doing. Like, and when I go out, I do teach this when I go out and talk to some of the kids and to youth culture camps, and I try to share as much as I can when I can, right? So and this really does help to set the mood and the setting, right? Like even
Mm.
if you're at that distance, you could still feel that good vibration, that good melody, right? Um, but the story behind this and the origin and this flute is known as a love flute, right? It's court. They sometimes they call it courting.
Mm.
But in the way that I see it, when we talk about love, is as kinship, right? As a way of family, and that setting of love and friendship, right?
Yeah.
Not in the sense of romance, because with the thing that I love to share and talk about is when we talk about spirituality is the thing that we're all working towards is still trying to reclaim what with what is lost, and trying to still maintain what we have. And part of that, like with the flute, that I feel is a big thing is that a lot of our communities is missing still too, is that love, right?
Mm.
So and I could share as I go through the story, I'll kind of give some examples as well, right? So that's the one thing that I always try to just start off in saying, when we talk about the flute, it's considered the flute of love, right? But not in the sense of romance, because when we're doing things out of ceremony, we're all there to share our experience as one, right? As a
Yeah.
community, whether you're from let's say Red Pheasant, and you're attending a ceremony in, let's say, my community in Ochis.
Mm.
We're there together as one. So we're sharing, and at the same time we're sharing all the prayers, and then at the same time, that sense of belonging, that
Mm.
love, right? That's
Mm.
that feeling that we feel welcomed when we're there, is because of that really strong emotion that we call love, because we love the setting, we love the prayers, we love the music, we love the just the environment itself, right? It
Yeah.
feels balanced and focused. So that's the one thing that I appreciate when I go to ceremonies, is still feeling that way, feeling that love, that connection, right? So
So
um,
that flute, you say, helps, integrate, when one, like you said, like Red Pheasant coming to Ochis, it's a welcoming tool.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
Almost.
Like there's not very many people even in my community that play the flute, but there are a few. I mean, I even other communities when I go around and visit, there's a few that I've come across that they say, oh, I play the flute too, but they kind of keep it secret, and I'm like, well, you don't keep
Yeah.
it a secret. You don't share with your community, share your love and your passion with everybody else, because it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Uh, the sound is just an amazing sound. It really brings good feelings out of people, right? And at the same time, if the person's in a mindset of maybe whatever it is that they're feeling at that moment, but playing and sharing that the others around them are feeling another way, right? But at the same time, you're bringing others to feel that balance as well. You're not only healing yourself within that time of your playing, but the others are going to pick up on that, because you're playing out of your heart, from a place of inside, right?
Mm.
Inside of you, and you're sharing that, and you could feel that when I do that. The last time I did play was out in Red Pheasant, was for my a funeral. I mean, it's
Mm.
not the ideal place I would play, but at the same time, a lot of people were feeling, very emotional, very hurt and lost, and some animosity was kind of the tensions, right? So when I
Mm.
started playing, after I was done playing, the energy shifted. You could feel it. Everybody started feeling a little bit more lifted, and you could see it, right? So
Yeah.
that's the beautiful thing about about healing, right? It doesn't have to be in ceremony, right? Like, yeah, playing the flute can be considered ceremony, like a lot of things that we do, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily mean you have to go and start a fire and light up some rocks and consider that type of thing as healing. It does help, but there's other ways as well, right?
Mm.
Right. So
And you're so right, like, like the flute, like it's on YouTube. I listen to a lot of flute music on YouTube, and Jason Chamakis as well. I've listened to his stuff, but I mean, yeah, it gives you that healing emotion. If you want to chill out, if you're stressed, if you're needing a mental break, even you put on flute music, right? Like, have you ever listened to it?
Actually, yeah, I do healing work, Garrett, and I use a lot of flute music as I'm working with people. in that healing capacity. I've also used flute music when my kids were younger. We'd be traveling, and you know how kids are in the back seat just arguing back and forth, and I would just say, like, just listen to this, you guys, and I'd turn it up, and they had the rule was they had to be quiet for that whole duration of that song, and then each of them got to share with me what they saw when their eyes were closed as they were listening to this music, how it made them feel. And it was actually a really good instrument to be able to, or way for them to be able to bring their feelings out and to speak about how they feel. And plus it gave me a little downtime while I was driving, because having three kids and fighting, you know? But they remember that, like, they're all adults now, and they have good memories of that. And so yeah, I do use the flute music quite regularly in our home, and as I'm working with clients, or as Nathan said, if I just just want to relax and just kind of maybe meditate a bit. So it is very soothing, and it does definitely shift the energy. I see what you're saying when you speak about that.
Yeah, and that's that's a great thing. I mean, I'm glad you guys are able to relate in regards to when I talk about the energy and shifting and the moods it puts people in, right? Because it really does do wonders, which I'm very grateful to be able to be a player myself, to be able to play this, right, and share what I can to whoever is around. If I'm feeling a certain way and I pull it out and I start playing, right? Because I do travel with this quite a bit, right? Like this beautiful instrument has taken me places, in my mind, in a good way, and physically, because I get invited to other areas to share it as well, right? The furthest I've ever went with this was Cambridge Bay in Nunavut. It was in the middle of the winter.
Oh.
And when I was out there visiting, I got to experience some really cool things. And you want to talk about cold? I was out on the ocean with the frozen ice when it was, it must have been minus 60, 65 or something like that. So that was
why we're almost as cold as that today.
Yeah, I mean it's unnatural that we be feeling that cold, but like going up there and sharing a little bit of the stories of the flute, and some other stories of what we do with our ceremonies, and then the community up there sharing some of their stuff was an amazing thing. It was a beautiful thing, and that's the great thing about how we do things when we share, right? It's reciprocated, right? And we don't usually judge each other for how we do our practices, right? And our ways, right? So I was well welcomed there, and and my stories, and I welcomed all their stories and their teachings. It was a great thing, I love that. Love the way we do these things like that as Indigenous people, as Nihewan, right, or Anishinaabe.
Was there something similar when you went up to the Northwest Territories or Nunavut, wherever you went? Was there something similar to the flute that they do, or?
Not that I'm aware of. I didn't get a lot of time to do a lot of sharing, because a lot of the things that they did share, that a lot of the similarities was when it came to hunting. So which part of my story does involve that, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, the hunting was a big thing for them up in that, because now that the cost of living up in areas like that is really is outrageous, right? Like the cost of meat over there is crazy, right? Because they have to get everything shipped in, or if they're, because of the winter, they can't ship in anything by boat. Then they have to fly it in, right? And so a lot of the times, what they'll do is they'll go out and hunt and store their meat over the winter. A lot of them will store their meats in these little shipping containers, because it's cold, and it's protecting any of the animals to get get to them rather than putting it in a big deep freeze inside their house, right?
Yeah.
Outside their house is a deep freeze enough, right?
Yeah.
So that was something that was interesting just to learn with that. But they rely a lot on hunting, and they do have their stories about hunting and how they go about and do it as a community, as a lot of other communities do it, because they don't go out alone. They'll go in groups as well, and they'll share, and just like most other nations will, when they do get their meat. They'll share with their elder and those that might be sick or weak, too weak to go out, and then the rest kind of divvied up between other families, right? That might be more needing more than anybody else with, because of the children in their homes. So yeah, that was probably the one thing that I could say that was most in common that I could share, and but it was quite unique in regards to their communities up there, that how much they share, because they're still really tight closed communities, and they do a lot of sharing with a lot of things.
Yeah. So
Whereas
it's kind of like what you're doing with, your flute music. When even, like you said, when you brought it here to Red Pheasant, you shared it at the wake there in the funeral, and you shared that healing power it has. Like you said, the energy shifted, eh?
yeah. And but yeah, so I'll get into the story here in just a minute, because I'm just wanted to take up some time here, right? But in regards to when I do share a little bit of how the flute, with a lot of the teachings, it has to involve spirituality and how it connects to us as the human side of things, and to how it connects to our Mother Earth and the rest of our teachings, right? With maybe the sun or the elements that we use to keep us alive, right? So with this one, it involves four elements, right? So us as the human, right? And then the breath, the daily breath, right? The wind, the north wind that we have in our teachings, and then the Mother Earth, which involves the wood, right? Growing the wood, because this is a wooden flute. This is made of cedar wood. And then the spiritual side of things is the other component of it, which is the bird, right? This bird right here, it sits on top of the flute right here. So that's a representation of the spirit that, bringing all those components together, gives the flute life, and it gives it meaning, and that's kind of what this is. A lot of the healing involves as well, right? Those components, right? And without any of these components, then it's pretty difficult to bring life to a flute, right? So let's say, for example, this the spiritual side of the component. If I remove it out of the equation, if I blow into the flute, you're not going to hear anything. You're just going to hear my breath, right? And even if I try to cover it with my fingers, it's not really going to work for me, right? So, and then if I bring this equation back into the spirit side into the equation, the representation of the bird, then I can bring it back to life. Yeah. So, yeah. So we'll get into the story now. So I will start with explaining a little bit about how we had our instruments of that we were gifted with, right? Like I said, the drum, the rattle, and also this flute, because those are three of the instruments that we were gifted with as people. And so it starts with a young man who was in his community. His community was in turmoil, right? His community was going through some tough times. There was a time of famine, right? They were finding it hard to seek out food for the communities and the people, right? So um, just like in common today, where there's a lot of the families are sometimes and living in poverty with not having much to eat, just similar to that. But back then there was also that was going on with that community that this young man was living in, and he didn't have a lot of talents. He wasn't the greatest hunter. He wasn't the most brightest person in the community. Like but he was just an average community member that contributed it just like everybody else where he could. But because of the community he was living in was in turmoil, like I said, and the leadership wasn't getting along. There was some animosity in regards to whose role was who was going to take on what role when it came to trying to feed the community and find food. And so there was that, and at the same time a lot of the elders were sick and weak, and the children were going hungry, and some of the other adults, when the hunting groups would go out, because they come back unsuccessful, they were became weak. So it was hard to try to work with one another when there was a lot of animosity when it came to leadership trying to pull people together. So he felt that he needed to do something. So because he was um, taught how to put together a bow and go out and find some really nice straight willows, right? Because that's what we usually use when the willows grow really straight, and they're pretty sturdy, and at the same time they have that nice flex that you need when you're shooting an arrow. So he was able to put that together, and he thought to himself, well, I'm going to go out. I don't have much food left with me, but he had some dry meat, and in order to make dry meat a little bit more easier to pack with you, you'd turn it into pemmican, right? So you just smash it up, make it into powder, right? And if you have some dried fruit with it, that'll give you that extra nutrients as well. So he packed enough for him to try to be out for a couple days, because he didn't know what he was going to be get up against. So when he got together his bow, he got his arrows, and he made a little pack, and he started heading out. And after a day's walk, it started becoming in the late afternoon. He came across an elk, right? And because of the region of where the story originates, they have a belief in what's in this medicine called elk medicine. I don't know if either of you have ever heard of that.
No, I haven't.
No, so elk medicine is similar to a good luck charm, right? It's a way to have that. If an individual was to get that elk medicine, because it was well sought after for sometimes for the wrong purposes, but for the purpose of using it in a good way. If you got that elk medicine from that animal, then you'd prepare it for yourself to to be good with hunting, for example. You'd never miss your kill, things like that. And it was also a way for using as a love charm, right? So if you're seeking a companion that you're very much interested in, you would use that elk medicine for that purpose, right? And as well as just in general, you'd always have this good luck about you. Things would happen for you that you were seeking out. But just give me a minute, okay? Just give me 1 second. My dog is getting whiny. I gotta
Yeah.
put him downstairs for a minute.
Yeah, well, there you go. He's coming back on. Garett Strawberry from Ochis is teaching us about the flute, telling stories about the flute, the origins, and some of the history. So, what do you think so far?
I think it's pretty awesome. I know I'm learning a lot.
Are you? Yeah. I've always been intrigued with the flute. Like I said, I listen to flute music at night, and off and on, and it's good to hear. It's relaxing. It soothes your soul, and yeah, it's good to know that you even said that. So okay, he's back here.
Sorry about that.
No worries,
My
man.
dog is getting pretty whiny. And it's cold outside, so he doesn't want to go outside. So he just stays around.
I know we even brought in all our townside dogs into the house. So.
Yeah. Okay, so back to it. In regards to that elk medicine, right? So it was something of a charm, right? So a good luck charm. So it's something, if you. But his intention was to try to get that good luck charms for a few reasons. One, he was an adult. He lived on his own, and he was seeking companion. But at the same time, he was trying to do good for his community and get some meat and get some food to feed the people, right? And so when he came across the elk, when it came into sight for him, it wouldn't let him get too close. So when he started noticing a distance where he felt confident in taking a shot, so he'd take aim, and just as he would just about to let go and take his shot, the elk would start running and it would take off. And so the elk was, it kept happening that way. He would get to a distance again where he would be able to take a clear shot, and just as he was going to shoot, it would run. It would go further up. So it was kind of leading him away. And as he continued his day of his full day, he started to realize it was starting to get dark out, and he couldn't really see that elk as it continued to get dark. So when nightfall came upon him, he realized he wasn't paying attention to where he was going. So he couldn't walk back to his community because he was lost at night. And as you know, sometimes on those nights when you're out in the bush, it's hard to tell where you are unless you really know the area really well, right? So, and as you know, a lot of the times our people used to travel a lot, right? So they would pitch up tents or camps for just a short period, right? And then they would be on their way. So that's kind of with him. He wasn't paying attention to which direction he was walking to. So when nightfall came, he was lost. So, but he did remember he had some pemmican because he was on his feet all day, and he was all the excitement and the adrenaline that he was getting from the thought of catching this elk and getting some elk medicine. He was hungry, so he brought out his pemmican. He started, having something to eat, and then in the distance he could hear water running, so he could hear a stream. He couldn't see it, so he started walking towards the noise. And as he got closer, it started to become louder. So he found that stream. He was able to start taking some water to quench his thirst, right? So as the night kind of continued, he started hearing coyotes in the distance howling, the owls in the area making their noises. So he started getting a little bit because he was alone, and this was the first time he's been alone out there. He started to feel a little bit uneasy about things. Maybe because he was a little bit afraid himself. So he, found a tree that was kind of burrowed out a little bit at the root. So he kind of took shelter there for the night. And before he went to bed, he started hearing a noise, just a right, like he just a constant like that noise, and then he couldn't really see, but he could hear it. And then because it was kind of a little bit windy as well, so there was clouds that were coming through, and then the moon would come out of the clouds, and then he noticed when he started looking up, he noticed a bird on a branch that was making that noise. It was a woodpecker, and then that woodpecker flew away, and then as the wind continued, he started to hear another noise, right? Something he's never heard before that sounded a little bit uneasy to him, right? It sounded like this. So that was the first time he heard anything like that, and he was a little bit scared. It made him feel frightened at first, but as that noise continued on through the night because it was windy, it kind of helped keep him calm and feel a different feeling, right? It made him feel lonely, but at the same time, it made him feel calm and happy. And when he started feeling sad because of the situation his community was in, it started making him feel a little bit more optimistic. So he fell asleep that night with that noise, going on. And then he woke up the next day, and then he decided he wanted to investigate, where that noise was coming from. So he went up and he grabbed the branch, and he noticed it was, full of holes, and the bird was no longer there. So he took that branch with him, and he went home. And he thought, okay, well, this is interesting. I'll take this with me. Maybe that's a good luck sign. Maybe, he wasn't too sure what it was he had in his hands, right? And so when he was really excited, he wanted to. When he got to his camp, he realized that it was making a noise. So he knew that there was wind, right, involved that was making the noise, but he just wasn't too sure exactly how it was working. So he realized, oh, maybe I have to blow into it. So he started try to blow into it, but nothing was happening for him, right? And he became a little bit, tried different ways. He tried swinging it around, trying to make a wind maybe action or whatever, right? And nothing was working for him. So he became a little bit frustrated, and he became a little bit angry that he was showing, something out in the on his own, but he didn't realize what he had or what it was for. So with most times when we're out trying to seek answers, we turn to our fasting, right? And some people call it vision quests, which I don't know. I don't really relate to that term too well because I just find that to be a little bit too out there because of how it's the stigma that follows behind it with how our history has been shared, right? So, but he decided he was going to go out and do his fasting and find and seek some answers. So he got together his sweat lodge. So the sweat lodge, as we use it for cleansing, right? So he went and cleansed himself before he started his fasting. And as you know, when you go fasting, you have to be on your own. You have to be out in wilderness, usually on top of a hill or something of that sort, with being alone. So he did that. He found his spot where he was going to go and fast. So he was up there for 3-4 nights, the first three days he didn't, 3 nights he didn't have anything come to him. He started to pray and get a little bit sad about what this was about, and what he wanted to try to figure out what this branch was. So finally on that fourth night, a vision came to him. He was sleeping, and then again in his dream he woke up in that same place of where he found that branch. And in that dream, he noticed the woodpecker again, right? So that woodpecker was sitting on top of the branch, but with the wind that was going again, it wasn't making any noise. So it was just as he started getting close to the woodpecker would fly a little bit of a distance from him. And then again, he would fly a little bit of a distance from him, and then he would continue to follow him, and then until he reached a cedar tree. So with that tree, he started to hollow out or peck into the branch, right? And in certain spots, he was pecking into it, and then the young man in his vision, he asked that bird, what are you doing? What could you tell me, explain to me what it is that this is about? And the woodpecker flew down to the ground and transformed into a human form, right? So in the human form, he started talking to him and explaining to him what the branch was, what he was doing with the branch, and explained a little bit of what he needed to do to make this branch work for him. So when he woke up from his dream, he climbed down from the hill, and then he immediately went and sought out the tree that he was directed to, and he took a branch. So it wasn't hollowed out or anything yet. So he went back to his camp and he started doing the steps that he was instructed to do. And then he realized, because it was missing a big part of what he had before, was the bird, and that bird explained to him about the spiritual side of the representation. So, but on mine it doesn't show a woodpecker. Mine it shows a different bird, right? But with his, he carved out a woodpecker sitting on top of the flute, like he would like he was in his first time he seen it. The woodpecker was sitting on top of the flute, like it was sitting on the branch, right? And so he began to play. He started to play. And as he continued to play, because he was playing it just a little ways from his camp, he just wanted to learn how to use it, right? And he still didn't really fully understand what the intention of it was for, right? But as he continued to play, then suddenly somebody in the distance heard it. A young lady that heard it. She was in her camp. She can hear him playing in the distance. Right, so she can hear it. And suddenly something came over her, like she she liked the music. She felt, the sound was really beautiful, but at the same time, she was having something to eat, and she was alone in her camp. And suddenly, her body lifted her up on her feet, but she was trying to fight against it. She was this feeling was pulling her towards the sound, right? So before you know it, she was outside of her camp. So she kept trying to force herself just to, not to move, just to stay where she was and just to try to hear it from a distance. But as she continued to hear the playing, before she knew it, she was standing directly next to the young man that was playing, and he stopped and he noticed that she was standing next to him, and so he got up off the floor and started to talk with her, and she asked him to continue to play, so he to continue to play for her, and she started to feel a feeling she's never felt before. Because she was very young, she was very beautiful, and she was not married, and her father was putting a lot of pressure on her to be married, because it was that time for her to find a husband, and she had a lot of young men try to court her in the community, and others from other communities to try to court her, but she was never satisfied. So with this feeling that overcame her, she felt some sort of way for towards him. So she asked him to continue playing, and she asked if if he would be willing to ask her father to take her hand in marriage, and in the old way where when you'd ask the father for the hand of the daughter, you'd have to gift, right? You'd have to gift something of value, of great importance, right? So with that young man, he didn't have much, but what he did have was some buffalo robes and then some other small items that he presented uh, to the father, and then the father accepted it, right? Because usually the way it was is, the both fathers would get together, but because he was alone, he didn't have his parents, so he had to do it on his own. Um, so and then with them two becoming one, he began to play again for the community, inside the community, like right, because he was celebrating, so he began to play. And when he was playing at a celebration, he noticed a lot of the community members starting to come around, and those family members or those community members that weren't getting along too well were suddenly standing next to each other, hearing this young man play, and because he was playing from a place of enjoyment, right? Like out of love is what I said. So after playing for a bit, after he was done, the community members kind of just took a look around at each other and realized, that there was no need to be so angry with each other for over petty things, right? So then that's kind of a little bit of how that story became, right? The story got out where the young man that used this to find his love for his wife that he had. So other young men started to follow suit, right? Coming to him for teachings, and the community coming together again and finding ways to feed their community, right? Because there was that part that was missing was the love, right? So the love brought that community close together again. So and things started to look good for everybody. Everyone is starting to get fed. Food wasn't as scarce, but everyone was still working together through those tough times, right? So, but yeah, that's kind of the quick version, if you will.
That was that was nice to hear, man. That was yeah, you know when you ever hear those stories and you're so in the zone listening and like you just listen.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
literally that's how I felt like I don't know, man. That was a beautiful story. So thank you for sharing that story, Garrett. Especially about how the bird interact. Like I love hearing how the animals have a lot of big part in our culture and how they interconnect with a lot of our stories.
yeah.
Perfect examples which you just told us about the flute and the bird and man and love and everything. So I mean, yeah, that was good, man. And your dad there is very proud of you. Give your
Yeah.
old man a shout out there, Larry. So that's
Oh
good.
yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Thanks for tuning in there, Dad. So yeah.
Yeah. How much time you got?
I got I could spare a little time. Probably another 10 minutes or so if you guys want to
Yeah,
chat a little bit more
I'd like I'd
of
like to
how
hear
I.
some more songs. Tell you the
Yeah.
truth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I could play a little bit. I don't, I won't, because I do have to get back to work here soon. But I could play a little bit if for you guys, so that way
Yeah.
That would be
could
awesome.
You got
could
any
also
questions
end this
before?
in a good way. Eh?
Oh, I'm just asking my co-anchor here if she's got any questions for you right
I
now.
actually do have a question before you
Yeah.
start. I'll make it quick. So when you decided that you wanted to learn how to play the flute, did you said you didn't have any experience in it before? Was it just something that you just felt inclined to do, or it just resonated with you, or how did that work?
Well, when I seen it, I felt really nice to hear it right in person. Like I've heard it over the like YouTube and stuff like that, and and I've always heard flute music that way. But hearing it in person from the person that was playing it, it really attracted me to it. I don't know what it was at that time, but I got so attracted to it. And then I started asking questions, like, was it hard to learn? Is it hard to play? Is those kind of things. So the person shared, well, it didn't take me very long. He said, I think it was a young lady that was playing. And she said, it didn't take her very long. She didn't give me a specific time frame, but she just left it at that. And I said, okay, well, where would I find something like this? And then she told me, that I could reach out to some people that make these flutes, or if I were to buy one that's crafted, that's a little bit more modern and it's machined. I decided to go for that route. So
Mm.
I found where to find one, right? So these ones are made in the States from a company called High Spirits Flutes.
Hmm.
And they make some really high quality flutes, because this is an old flute. I've had this for, like I said, for over maybe more than 9 years. But
Mm.
I've had it for quite a while. And like I said, I traveled everywhere with it, and it's in good shape. You know,
It's
and
almost like the flute. Does the flute choose you? Do you think? Like, do you think you gravitate towards it? Like, is it like a
that's an interesting question. I've never been asked that before.
because you know
For
how
me, for
people say
me,
like they say the universe even in our stories it's like it's like you're chosen, to do a thing to maybe help your people, or like you're saying, like the flute brings healing. Maybe you were that one that, whoever in any spirituality you look at it, like it was chosen for you to bring that gift to the people. Like that was your gift.
It could be that way. Like, if I think back on it, I could probably say that it did feel that way.
Natural.
Yeah, it did feel natural, and it didn't take me very long to learn. Like, it took me, quite honestly, maybe 3 weeks to really start learning how to do melodies, right?
Mm.
And to really master it probably took at least a few months, anyways. And learning the stories behind it, that took a little bit longer because I was just still trying to find my way with what just using the flute. I just used it as a way, like I said, to um, um, find balance and healing. And
Yeah.
just a second, I'm just gonna plug in my computer really quickly here.
Well, I can say, Garrett, you've inspired me. I've always had an interest in the flute, and it might be something that maybe I might explore. I do play other musical instruments, and I just love listening to the flute. I could listen to it all day. So we're not going to take up too much more of your time. We're just going to let you get to playing us a
Yeah.
song.
Do you play
Yeah.
the spoons?
I do.
Really?
The fiddle, yeah, I play the fiddle, the guitar, the spoons.
Really?
Yeah.
I was kidding, but right on. Yeah, go ahead, Garrett. Take it away. Give us a couple songs, man.
Okay. All right. So,
Right on, man. We're just chilling in the back. So I guess is that you? You got to go back now to work, or?
I had a few notifications pop up on my Teams app because I'm on my work computer right now and I'm getting some messages. It's not really that. I just have to answer a few questions before I head out here a bit. but yeah, no, I really appreciate you guys taking inviting me to share, and I love sharing. And you guys had some really good questions, especially with the part about, you know, if it did choose me. Now I have to sit back and think about that one, because maybe that was something that I was gifted for a reason, right? Like I said, I do go out and fast with it, right, quite often every
Mm.
year. So you know, I appreciate taking it, and it is a great gift, right? It's something that means dear to me, and especially when I go and do these things for others and share what it means to me, and how I've used it to get through some of my healing, right?
Mm.
So I really love doing those sorts of things, and it's a great healer. Like you know, you know, I'm sure others have been through some really hardships in their lives, and probably worse things than I have been through. But yeah, my life was nearly taken from me 4 years ago, and I'm still here today.
Right on.
And then with still relying on spirituality and the flute. You know, when I was going through tough times, where, you know, depression and things like that had hit me really hard, I didn't turn to alcohol or any of those sort of things to take me away from that mindset for a short period, right? I relied heavily on this to just to keep me balanced and keep me moving forward and keep my head straight. And you know, I feel it really did help me through a lot. And yeah,
Seems like
it's a beautiful thing.
it's safe to say that the flute has been a key element in your personal grounding and you know, being centered and being clear in mind.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, it's a great thing, and yeah, and if for you guys, because you work out of elementary school, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so in the past when I was teaching, like I was doing this teaching for schools as well,
Mm.
I happened to reach out to the company that makes these, and they donated 12 for me, just as long as I was able to share my progress with teaching the kids and taking pictures.
Mm.
The owner was very generous, and just sending them a bunch, right? So I mean, if you guys had somebody in your community that knows how to play the flute and would be willing to share and teach, I mean, that might be something that you guys could look into as well.
I don't think anyone on the reserve. Well, probably, but the none that I know of. But that you're right. Like I think, you know, the flute. You're right. It's such a healing thing, and you know, especially in these times, you know, we need anything and especially in our culture that we can use to help heal
Yeah,
minds and our souls. And I don't want to keep you too much longer and get you in trouble. I don't want to get a text from your boss. You know,
yeah,
but
yeah,
hey, Garett, I want to really thank you for coming on today's show. Really, really impressed, man. Like you're well spoken. You really know your knowledge on the flute, and it's nice to hear those stories. You know, you're a good storyteller when you zone out and you just listen, and you know, like that. That's a big shout out to you.
yeah.
Like not many people can do that, eh? Um,
Yeah, no, I know how that is. Maybe it's because you know, it's a repetitive thing, right? But maybe not. I don't
yeah.
know. But I do love sharing that story, and that's not the first time. You know, when I shared that story to a big crowd of non-indigenous, you know, some
Yeah.
white people, white folks in suits and everything like that in a oil and gas industry conference.
Oh, and they just zoned out.
Everyone was just quiet, right? Like
Yeah.
everyone was just quiet and zoning out, and they just listen to what I had to share and tell the story, and yeah, it was nice just seeing that, and it's and even when I go and do that, like even at the funeral, it was a beautiful thing to see everyone just that that energy shift. And it's nice, like even in classroom settings where I know there's really those that don't really like to pay attention sometimes.
Mm.
Then when I get to playing the flute, then all of a sudden they're like, right? They're sitting there quiet, listening. they're not distracted anymore. Their focus is somewhere else, and just
Yeah.
bringing them in, right? They're bringing their spirits in as well. So, yeah.
Awesome.
All
I
right.
guess that's it. I'm going to give you just a quick little. Going to give you the screen to yourself so you can just say maybe some closing words. But everyone, I want to thank you for tuning in. Sorry we weren't live yesterday. This cold weather really got to me, and I was down and out at home, so didn't have a show yesterday. But we will continue tomorrow. We'll have Winston Watney again with a guest, so you guys tune in from 12 to 2 again tomorrow. And I want to say thank you, hi Garett, for coming on today and teaching us about the flute. So go ahead, take it away.
All right. Yeah. So for those that are have viewed and listened to the story, I hope you can learn a little bit from it and know that there's turning to spirituality isn't always a way that involves sweats and stuff like that. Because I feel that this is part of a ceremony as well. So picking this up, and it didn't take a lot for me to learn. So there are ways that you could go out there and get your own. I mean, if you're a good wood carver, good good with wood and crafting things like this, there's a lot of things that you can find online to make something like this, right? Because I did make for a friend of mine one out of a PCV pipe. PCV pipe that was just a little bit thinner than this, and crafted it and put it together, and it sounds just the same as this. It might not be exact, but it's close enough where it still has that nice sound to it. So if you can't go out and maybe afford something like this, there's other options out there, and start learning to play, because it takes you away in a good way mentally, especially when if you're going through hard times, and even today more so than ever, that I feel, because of the world is in chaos with all the pandemic, and having to isolate all the time and be away from friends and be away from family sometimes could be hard on us. So that's a good outlet, is and a positive outlet too, right? And if you do learn and get yourself a wooden flute, I would encourage you to use it in a positive way and not to misuse it, because it does have the spirit side to it, right? This is the spirit that lives within the wooden flute. So I hope you would respect it when you do have your flute. And that's all I have to say today. Miigwech, hi hi.